Hey there, couples. I'm in the studio today with Tracy, and today we're talking about God's design for marriage. So Tracy, who is this video for?
Okay, this is a video for any of you out there that are preparing to get married. It's very important for couples to go into marriage as they're prepping for marriage, to understand that God has a design for how marriage should work, and you should be aware of it as you prep and prepare.
Yeah. Okay, and so there are a few more lessons after this,
Yes.
and the other lessons are about love and trust and communication, but this one is just going to sort of get those couples started. So Tracy, why don't you talk us through this first point, that marriage is about two becoming one. What is that all about?
Okay, so it's important for couples to know that marriage is this beautiful thing that happens where two individuals come together and become one. And that's what the Bible talks about in Genesis chapter 2.
Okay.
This idea that in God's eyes, you're no longer two people, you're now one.
Yeah.
And you become fully integrated, which...
Now, yeah, and I can imagine someone who maybe has never heard that verse before, or maybe isn't someone who grew up in church, they're not really sure what you're talking about. You're saying physically they become one?
Okay,
In what
no.
sense do they become one?
So in the sense that you no longer put your own needs ahead of your spouse. Like now you come into marriage, and when we got married, now it's not just my life. Now it's about preferring you, even preferring you over me.
Yeah.
And it's just this beautiful sacrificial kind of love that's a beautiful picture of what we see in the Bible, of what Jesus talks about his love for us.
Yeah, and I think this is especially important in a culture that elevates individualism.
Yeah.
So we're all about the individual. And so some people might even say, well, I don't want to give up my identity.
Right.
You still are two separate individuals, but there's a sense in a healthy marriage, biblically speaking, there's a sense in which you have to recognize you are coming together, you are melding almost, right? Hopefully you're combining your checking account. You're going to live in the same house.
Yes. You're going to share life in every sense of the word.
So two become one. And so then there's this idea of what the Bible calls leaving and cleaving then that goes along with it.
Yeah, because I think that's part of it. This is where marriages get in trouble right away, is if one person kind of still prefers their family or their way, and then they come into marriage and the other person had a family and a background and expectations and the way things worked. And so if you both just have that attitude of, well, it has to be my way.
Yeah.
I don't care about your way. Well, your marriage is kind of doomed from the beginning. So the idea needs to be that you're really creating something new together.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot with couples that we counsel, because this is a lot of times a source of conflict, is the in-law issue, right?
Yes.
Because usually either the woman or the man, they have this connection with their parents and maybe the siblings that is just really can become problematic.
Right. Well, yeah, because again, when two are becoming one and you're creating your own family structure, it's no longer about preferring just one way of doing it. That you come together and you say, well, what are the strengths from your family? What are the strengths from yours? And let's put those together and make that something new. But we don't let our families then still come in and infiltrate and have control or influence us more than our spouse.
Right. Yeah, so it's not that you turn your back on your family of origin. It's just that you recognize that now this new oneness principle that husband and wife are one, that means that there's a different relationship that you have that's even different than your relationship with mom or dad.
You almost look at it like an allegiance. When we got married, my allegiance turned more to you in terms of I needed to prefer your heart, your needs above my parents. I mean, and if you think about that really does make sense in the end. It wouldn't be natural for me to still, want my parents' approval like I did when I was 16.
Yeah. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next lesson when we dig in on what love is and covenant versus just a feeling. But let's just go on to vows real quick. So explain, as couples are watching this and they're about ready to take vows, what are vows at the end of the day? What do those boil down to? Yeah,
this is important because think about every wedding that you ever go to. You hear similar words and similar verbiage. And the reason why we do that is because it's marking a moment where you're making promises to your spouse, like in sickness and in health, for richer, for poorer. You recognize in that we have a contrast when things are good, when things are hard.
Right.
And you're making a promise to say, I'm with you through those. Yeah. It's not just, I'm with you when we're good, I'm with you when you're rich, and I'm with you when you're healthy, and I'm with you when you have hair. But when you lose your hair,
You had to
then maybe my commitment isn't there.
Yeah.
So vows are promises. So think about that as you're preparing for marriage. This isn't like a contract where you're like, as long as you hold up your end of the bargain, or as long as you look and act the way I want you to, then I'm committed to you. But if you don't do those things, or if you don't look the way I want you to look, now I'm not committed. No, you're making promises that stick for a lifetime.
Yeah, and so then that really leads to just one more thing. Let's talk about the D word for a second.
Yeah.
Because this then affects the mindset of couples going in. The one thing that we certainly wouldn't do is continue to counsel a couple toward marriage if their attitude is, let's see if this works.
Yeah.
Let's just get married and let's just see if this works. And if it doesn't work, it's okay because we can get divorced.
Right.
What do you say to that?
Right. God's design for marriage is that it's a commitment that you make, and it's for a lifetime, and it's only broken by death. Yeah. You picture it like what happens when you glue two pieces of paper together. Two pieces of construction paper, let's say. You glue it together, it's together, and then you start pulling it apart. What happens? You're leaving some paper on the other one. It's ripped. It's not good. It's not a clean break. And the reason for that is because God's design was never for the marriage relationship to be broken. And so even though in our culture, divorce has become a very commonplace thing, that doesn't mean that it's right, and it doesn't mean that it's good. And God wants us to make promises, right? A promise means that you're in it till the end. And so think about that too, if you're preparing for marriage, that if you don't really know if you have that level of commitment to this person, then consider why that is and work through that, or maybe you shouldn't get married.
Yeah, that's good. Well, so that's a little bit on God's design for marriage. Now, here's what we want you to do. Hopefully you're going through this with a marriage mentoring couple. So use those questions down below and talk about this first lesson, sort of dig into these this initial topic. And then, again, we hope that you'll join us for all of this series, the entire series. So we're going to talk about love, and we're going to talk about trust and communication. So we'll see you in the next lesson.